Dear viewers, you welcome to this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinox Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Bable Jonathan. The network of human rights defenders in Central Africa, REDA, calls on Cameroonians to rise and tell the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, enough is enough. He has to put an end to the socio-political, security and even economic crisis hitting the Republic of Cameroon. The officials of that organization granted a press conference today here in the economic capital, Douala, and the Minister of Communication and Government spokesperson of the Republic of Cameroon, Rene Emmanuel Sadi, dismisses information attributing the fire incident at the national refinery in the southwest region of the country, Sonora, to an attack by separatist fighters. He was speaking during a joint press conference today with the other ministers, notably the ministers of trade and of course the Minister of Water and Energy Resources in Yaoundé. Those were top stories. The Communication Minister of the Republic of Cameroon, Rene Emmanuel Sadi, has dismissed as false information that had been circulating attributing the fire incident in National Oil Refinery Sonora in the southwest regional town of Limbe to a separatist attack or an attack by separatist fighters. He was speaking today in Yaoundé during a joint press conference of the Ministers of Communication, Water and Energy Resources and Trade, and the government says it was an explosion in the refinery chain of Sonora which provoked flames that consumed 4 of the 13 units of refinery, and this brought to a halt the entire refinery process of Sonora, and there will be no disruption of the supply of petroleum products in Cameroon. This is information from the Minister of Energy and Water Resources, or Water and Energy Resources, Gaston Elundu Somba, who is assuring Cameroonians that there will be no disruption in the supply of petroleum products in Cameroon following that fire incident. And Trade Minister Luc Magloire Marga Tangana reassures the public that the prices of petroleum products will not change. The 3 ministers granted a press conference today in the Yaoundé, and we're going to come back on that fire incident over the weekend at Sonora in Limbe with our correspondent, Davison Maimo.
In an official communique released and signed by the General Manager of the National Oil Refinery Sonora, Paul Simon Jono, says despite the devastating fire incident damaging part of the production unit of the refinery, leaving considerable damages on the night of 31st May, breaking the 1st of June 2019, Sonora shall continue its activities, especially in the domain of supplying petroleum product. This official communique comes barely hours after a technical team from the National Oil Refinery Sonora and that of the Ministry of Water and Energy, headed by the Minister of Water and Energy Gaston Elundu Somba, visited the scene to ascertain the level of damages incurred. For more than 5 hours in a closed-door meeting, sources close to Sonora hinted to this reporter that though the damages incur worth hundreds of millions of CFA francs, Sonora might seek the services of expert company, not just to investigate the cause, but equally speedily rebuild the damaged unit. The official communique also stated clearly that no human life was lost, giving credit to the Fire Brigade Department of the National Oil Refinery Sonora, supported by the intervention of the Military Fire Brigade from Douala. However, with instruction from the head of state, His Excellency President Paul Biya, it is clear that the fire incident shall in no way affect the ongoing extension and modernization of the National Oil Refinery and the surrounding population. The fire incident, which was more like a bomb blast, its shock waves had considerable damages not only to other structures around Sonora, but to homes in nearby localities around the National Oil Refinery, such as in Mokundange, Limbola, Batoke and Bobende, with the shattering of glasses, louvers, ceilings, leaving the local population stricken panic.
And the fire incident left the people living around the area in shock, notably with regards to the current unstable socio-political and security climate reigning in that part of the country. Davidson Maimo has more.
The people of Limbe 2 subdivision, where the National Oil Refinery Sonora is located, are still to come out of the shock from the blast at the National Oil Refinery Sonora, with loud sound and shock waves that was felt 10 of kilometers from the refinery, following a fire incident on the night of 31st of May, breaking the 1st of June 2019. The people say the sound from the blast was so loud that it caused pandemonium and commotion, with the populace running hectare-skelter for safety.
I stay where my house is situated. That's a hotel, Ocean Wave Hotel, and the Gulf University, you know. So when these things explode like this, people who were in the hotel just were packing their bags, running away. The students in the school, you know, all of them packed their small bags and they were running away.
I myself, I went right to Middle Farms. I don't know where Sonora is, and then no, I took off with my family. From here, before reaching Middle France, that's the whole road was jam-packed with people. Everybody was going. Everybody. Tankers, cars, Okadas, the mothers with their children on their back, the ones that were... No.
At the time it happened, I was so traumatized that everyone around the area had to come out.
Though it is not the first fire incident, some older persons having previous experience say the 31st of May night explosion sound was really terrifying.
We are very used to, this is not the first time, it has been about the second or the third, but this time has been a very serious one. I was sitting on my balcony when I heard the explosion, boom, and a lot of light.
When I heard the explosion, I was gripped by panic. Yes, I was so frightened so much so that I had to run out of my house.
No, at first I see the bomb, if I hear that kind of sound.
The 31st May breaking the 1st of June fire incident at the National Oil Refinery Sonora has come to ignite so many questions, such as the security of nearby population in terms of a fire disaster, questioning if there is a well-elaborated security master plan if there is a fire disaster at the National Oil Refinery Sonora.
Ground vibrate, go, 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 go.
See what happened.
If na so me I get for die, may God change them.
I told you in the headlines, the network of human rights defenders in Central Africa, REDAC, says the time has come when Cameroonians must rise up and tell the President of the Republic of Cameroon, Paul Biya, and his government that enough is enough, that he must solve the current socio-political and security crisis hitting the northwest, the southwest, and even the far north, the Adamawa and the east regions of the country. And the officials of that civil society organization were speaking during a press conference today here in the economic capital, Douala. I want you to take a listen at this extract of that is Alice Com. She is a human rights lawyer and member of the executive board of REDAC.
Mr. Biya doesn't care about the African Union. I think that while the Cameroonian is one of the founder of UAO, today UA, he doesn't care. He does not attend the General Assemblies. He doesn't care about that. So he knows that these institutions will never use force to make him understand what it is, what is his duty and the national engagement vis-a-vis the international community. He knows that they will, always put gloves and try to him, counting of his own understanding of the responsibility which is his. And he loves this because he will tell them, okay, everything is under control, okay, I will, because his own contract he has with himself is to wait for the death while being President of the Republic. So he will never say, no, no, no. He will take all your time and saying, yes, yes, we will. And it is about now his people who are supposed to put him in to say, hey, if, as you say, you are there because of our will, our power of people, today we say we withdraw this power from you and do it. If we don't, what do you want the international community to do on our behalf? If we don't do anything, and then they can presume that we are happy with our leader. They will never do that because they have the rule on how to intervene, on how to help. But they can say, okay, don't agree with you. We think that you should use dialogue. If he doesn't want to listen, what can they do? Bringing army here? No, this is not the aim. They know that this is not the objective, the last objective they want. And he knows that. And now he knows that maybe he still have 2-3 years before he dies. He will take all this time so that his rendezvous with the death meet him while sitting on the presidential chair.
Coming up, EQUINOXE talks about the damaging and deadly consequences of the socio-political and security crisis hitting the northwest and the southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon for close to 3 years today, and it's going to be taking us to the locality of Buba 3 in Tombel, Kupe Moninguba division in the southwest region of the country, where there are several persons who have been displaced by the Anglophone crisis, living in very difficult and even precarious conditions. Some of them recently received medical aid from the military. His report.
Buba 3 is a village in Tombel subdivision in the Kupe Moninguba division of the southwest region, hosting thousands of inhabitants. Life is difficult here since the Anglophone crisis started and got sour. They have been approached by the military, elements of the 21st Motorized Infantry Brigade, who taught them not to take the government forces as enemy, but to lean on them for protection and assistance.
Not that the population was not there, according to the situation, so they ran away. Not that they decide to come back, we should encourage them. And this is an action to reinforce the link between the army and the population. Ask them to be confident in army. I want to reassure them we are there for them. We fight for them. We protect them. And we do our best to protect them.
The military personnel have pledged to sacrifice their lives for the people.
Nous sommes là. S'il faut qu'on meure pour vous protéger, on va mourir pour vous protéger.
With life gradually returning to the conflict-hit locality, the military, happy with the return of many families back home from the bushes, provided free consultation and medication to patients, as there exists no health center ever since the lone one that existed disappeared.
De santé au profit des populations ici ont besoin des soins.
Aim is to also ensure that people get a health facility for constant check-up and treatment, and the other way around, gain confidence and trust of the inhabitants.
Nous protégeons déjà ces populations.
We have come here to concern many sickness in our body. We want to come and check our body, what is happening in our body. Not paying anything. They just say that it's free consultation. The medicine is also free. We want to thank them for the help that they have helped us today.
On a some very fine way. The military don't make so it go help the village.
The absence of a hospital has only helped the people to cover kilometers over dilapidated roads to seek consultation and treatment in far-off towns like Njombe, Penja, Loum and others. A task hectic for pregnant women.
For side for Penja or Njombe, it be very hard for some people there.
The military gesture has, however, been heartily welcomed by these persons who are expected to believe, trust and collaborate with the National Defense and Security Forces for the protection of their lives and properties.
And we stay in the southwest region to talk about the region's first cardiac center, and Derek Jato reports that that center has gone operational.
The increasing number of people suffering from cardiovascular diseases is proving right the World Health Organization prediction that by 2020 cardiovascular diseases will become the leading health burden, with Africa likely to be much more affected.
I live in London, I operate in London and in Paris. All the phone calls we receive back from Cameroon are patients with cardiovascular diseases. Most of the time stroke, most of the time heart failure.
Dr. Fred Perikima, a Cameroonian United Kingdom-based consultant cardiologist, enumerated some symptoms of cardiovascular diseases.
The overall impression is that. And on top of that, if you realize that our predominant primary condition in this society is hypertension, the end point of most cardiovascular diseases is heart failure, and therefore there are all elements to suggest that people presenting with breathlessness, palpitations, lightheadedness, swollen legs, and of course distended abdomens could be suffering with an underlying cardiac condition.
And Fako Heart, the first cardiac center in the Southwest region, has opened its doors.
Our mission here is primarily to educate our people about the major risk factors of cardiovascular diseases, and then to enable them have direct access to first-class care, and finally offer them basic and necessary treatment.
Fako Heart Center will also serve as a University College of Cardiology and Stroke Association to educate people on how to prevent stroke.
Out of Cameroon, medical sources in Sudan have said at least 8 people have been killed and many others injured in clashes between protesters and elements of the country's armed forces in the capital Khartoum. That was earlier today. Activities say activists say security forces attacked a pro-democracy protest outside the military headquarters in the capital and the Transitional Military Council governing the country since President Omar al-Bashir was overthrown in a coup in April, later denied using force to break up the main protest site, and protesters have been demanding that a civilian government take over the running of the country. And of course, this protest has been going on for quite some time now over the military rule in that country, and there are reports that several persons have been killed, and the medical council of that country puts the death toll of the clashes between the security forces and protesters in the country's capital Khartoum at 9. That's it for this first part of the news. Coming up next, Talking Point. Thanks for joining us in Talking Point. We're receiving a politician and educationist, Dr. NGWANYAM. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Doctor, what's your analysis of the fire incident at Sonora over the weekend?
Well, 12 minutes after the fire started, I got someone who lives close to that place calling me to say, look, this thing has happened and we are so scared and so on. And so we were in the dark until some information started to filter in. But whatever the case, you know, we can say all what we want to say about what has happened. You know, we could all sorts of polemics. We could say we could play the politics around it, but we need to step back and then find out what went wrong. You know, it's clear, of course, that there was not a terrorist attack or something like that. I don't think it was a terrorist attack. You know, everybody tries to make some gain out of it, and. I remember this one Cameroonian politician, I don't want to call his name, he went on the waves to say that it was the Americans who are responsible for setting fire to that. That's very outrageous statement to make.
There's, however, an individual said to be a separatist who is claiming the fire incident.
Well, you know, sometimes when you're hiding in your little corner, sometimes you can say most of these things, but if he were to be caught and put in a hot seat, he would tell that he was lying. So sometimes it's just propaganda. But whatever the case, I think I've also heard some reports that the technicians who or the technical team that is in charge of Sonara, I don't know whether this is true, that they have had issues of maintenance there for the past, is it 5 months or 5 years? I can't remember the figures very well. And, you know, I'm tempted to believe that that is true, because we are not used to excellence in this country. There's a lot of half measures in this country, and sometimes we milk a willing cow to death. If we look at all our structures, you will see that. And so there's an issue of bad governance, bad management. We don't have preventive measures in place. We don't do preventive maintenance. And as long as the cow keeps giving milk, we keep milking it without without looking after the cow. I think that's what the problem is.
And that puts question marks on the security of persons living around the area.
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. And we can draw inference from that. Of course, when it comes to the health, there are health risks all over there, because there's a lot of acid and toxic gases that are liberated. Yes, all of those are there. Given that the fires are still burning up to now, which is surprising to me, though. And I'm also just surprised that with the explosion, you know, I think we just have to say we are lucky, and God is very kind, because with that explosion, the tongues of fire could have gone very far and burned most of the area around there. And we are just also very happy that there's no loss of life. You see, I mean, like with the government communication, they say, thank God there was no loss of life. But we you know, we have this war going on, and people are just killing each other like that, and we don't care. So life is precious, and we need to preserve life, and we need to do everything that we can do to actually preserve life. We shouldn't be just killing human beings over here carelessly, and then when they say an accident over here, oh, thank God there was no loss of life. That means we actually realize and recognize the fact that life is precious, and we ought to preserve it.
All right, we're going to talk about the Anglophone crisis in a short while, but before that, the protests of the CRM political party militants over the weekend that met with severe military repression, though not as severe as that of the 26th of January 2019, but there was use of military force, or better still, forces of law and order who were deployed in their numbers to crack down on the protests.
Yeah, when you say that, I remember my trip. I made a trip to Bonaberry the day they were going to have that process. I mean that march or whatever, protest or whatever. And why I can remember it so well is that I saw police people sitting, you know, in those roundabouts on the new road in Bonaberry, and they were sitting in the grass. The grass is grown so tall, and I was looking at it and laughing. I was seeing our policemen sitting inside grass, and this is a new and beautiful road that was built. It's not up to 2 years old. I think it's just about 1 year old, and it's so dirty. There's grass all over, and it's very unsightly. And these people were well dressed with cars, sitting inside the grass, and I was looking at them and laughing at them. I said, why don't they do something about the grass? They can only go around and beat and kick people around. So it was just so funny. And you know, just drawing from that experience, it comes back to say that we don't even know how to look after stuff in this country. So that's why everything is going down. That said, let's come back to the politics of the MRC. Well, there is a huge problem in the nation, there's no question. And I have said it here before, that this country needs to dialogue. And when you say dialogue, it means a man-to-man talk, where you talk with to one another with a lot of respect. But if we still govern in a way that we beat others and crack down on them, and we say we are the only ones who can talk, no one else can talk, then we create a problem, and we create a lot of social tension. It doesn't matter what the issues are. As long as we are talking and talking reasonably and not dictating to each other, we can come out of it. And but if we keep behaving in a manner where we come out with a fist and punch each other, lock up, kick other people around, it's not a nice way of governing.
And while there are calls for those who are being detained, Professor Maurice Kamto, and the others to be set free, there are many who were still arrested over the weekend, and they are also in detention.
Well, you know, I guess they just arrested them to just keep them so that the temper's cool, and then they are sent off home. You know, but if they are going to keep them there for a long time, then they are only creating more problems.
All right. Now, the Anglophone crisis, there has been much talk about decentralization and federalism and so on. That is referring to the form of the state. And now there is another new element that is coming in, the confederation.
Correct. Yes, I actually crafted that confederation thing. Not that it's a new idea, but I'm borrowing from countries that use it. I'm borrowing from Switzerland, from Belgium, from Britain, from Canada, and from the United States. They are confederations. And the concept of confederation works very beautifully. So because of the very complex nature of the problems in Cameroon, if we are going to say, okay, there's going to be I'm taking a cue from what the Prime Minister said as to what the nature of the dialogue will be all about. He says we are going to dialogue about the form of state, but we are not going to talk about secession. So if I say, okay, and then also I also listened to His Excellency Nagi Tibor and the Americans saying they are not for secession and many others. So let's deal with what we have. So if we are looking at the package and say, okay, we're going to be looking at the form of state in our country and looking at all the problems that we have, what is the best solution that we can bring to bear in Cameroon? What is the best approach? You know, people who are going for secession, of course, they have their own arguments, but I'm trying to deal with what we have. I'm working with what I have in hand to solve the problems I have in hand. You know, we have decentralization, because the government itself is saying we are going to leave this centralized form of government and go to decentralization. But if we are looking at the options, we have only decentralization, federation, and then confederation. So we have decentralized, we have a centralized government over here and confederation over here, and therefore as you start moving from the centralized unit as we have it now in Yaoundé, you go past decentralization, come to federation, and you upgrade to confederation. And it is that upgrade that I'm talking about. Decentralization is not even something we should be thinking of. You know, people have been working in a central government, they are so used to power that they won't let it go, so they will hang on that and tell Cameroonians that this is the best that we can give you. No, it's not about you giving people, it's about people choosing what they want. So, and decentralization is not good, and I'm teaching the people that they have to choose confederation.
So what is the content of confederation?
Confederation is, it best solves our problems under these circumstances, in the sense that we are dealing with two separate states. That's the first place where we are starting off with. We are dealing with Southern Cameroon or West Cameroon, as if you care. Then we are dealing with East Cameroon. I don't want to use the word La République du Cameroun because it brings confusion. Now let's stick to the terminologies that would make things very clear in people's minds. So we are dealing with a part of the nation that speaks French and they were under French colonial rule. Then we are dealing with the part that speaks English and they were under the English colonial rule or whatever. I don't want to go into polemics. Now, and they were, by 1961, before they came together, they were actually two separate states, and under the federation they still existed as two separate states. Then sometime in 1992 the boundaries were blurred, and that created the problem that we are living today. So we are reverting back to a situation where we can identify these two states, and then now we craft new laws and the ways of doing business which recognize these states as individuals. Then I say that inside each state we cause decentralization under each state, so that people of the Southwest, for instance, who are so scared of people of the Northwest, they can do their business unperturbed, so that people from Marwa, I'm sure you saw on social media the kind of primary schools we have in Marwa. They have thatch houses and there's nothing, so that those people in the north, they can build their own schools and don't wait for somebody from the south to come and build a school for them, so that people can be able to do their business. And then of course we get rid of all these chefs and administrators and so on. I mean, people will choose how those that administer them, so that ENAM will have no more raison d'etre. Then we can people like Bilingualism Commission, Social and Economic Council, and many of these things will be put out of the way so we can see clearly. Even the Senate has no use when we get to that confederation. We'll have the West Cameroon Parliament or Southern Cameroon Parliament, we have the East Cameroon Parliament, we have a confederal parliament with fewer parliamentarians, and then the size of the government as we have it now, you can shrink that into 21, and then make sure that you are sharing the post in a very equitable way between the two states, because at this time now it is not, we are not talking of 2 provinces versus 8 provinces. No, there are 2 states. One state, doing business with the other state. That's where it is. And then the beautiful thing, of course, is that, of course, we can have 2 currencies. The Southern Cameroon can have her own currency and her economy and do whatever she wants with it. And then East Cameroon would have its own currency. And then these 2 currencies, they can be used interchangeably. And many more other things.
All right, Doctor, that's the best option according to you now to solve the current problems we have in Cameroon. We'll certainly have more time, some other time, to talk more about this. Thanks for coming, Doctor.
Thank you.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Goodbye.